my channel. My name is Demetria, and I'm going to share with you some things that my daughter has been learning this past year during the pandemic, our pandemic homeschooling. And so if you haven't caught my last video, you need to go catch that first because it explains a lot of the changes and the twists and turns we made in our homeschool journey and where we are and why we made the decisions we made for the upcoming couple of years of our homeschool. So, and whether or not we're going to keep homeschooling. So you have to go back and watch that. Just to give you a quick recap, last year during the pandemic, I made the decision to pursue my passions a little bit more, which is teaching. I have been teaching adults forever, since like 2004, 2005. I've been teaching business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, how to create online business, how to turn your blog into an income by basically, I'm basically a digital marketing enthusiast and digital marketing consultant. So I help businesses take your blog or your platform, whatever you're using, and I get the word out. I teach you how to do that and how to gain more traffic so that you can have more income, create the business that you've been wanting to have online. So that's what I do for adults. But for kids, I have a whole passion for children. I love teaching kids. And my bachelor's degree is child development, and my master's is in interactive technology. So the cool thing about this past year is that teaching online was just perfect because I already love doing that. And then I love teaching kids. So this year I taught on OutSchool, I taught preschool, and I taught a couple of different preschool classes, some fun things that I made up for kids, like Prince and Princess Party, and I did pre-K circle time. I did all kinds of little fun things. I did a reading class, like learning to read, sight read, and everything. And that's just been a blast. It's been a blast. And while doing that, my daughter was homeschooling through a collaborative university model classical school. We left Classical Conversations and we started coming to this school, which meets twice a week. So of course we started virtual, and then the second semester we actually came on campus. So I got a job teaching at that school, and I taught the third graders 2 subjects, history and geography, as well as language arts. And I enjoyed every minute of that. But to find out more detail about my experience, you can look at my last video, which I'll post here or here. And now I'm going to show you the books we used in that school, in that program. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of the books and resources we use, because some of these books are up in my daughter's room and I just didn't feel like going in there to look for it. So I will show you the subjects she learned last year at the school and what we got out of it. Okay. First thing I'm going to show you is her history and geography. So they use this book, and she's 7th grader for context. And she's been using classical style of learning for 3 years. And before that, we were very Charlotte Mason, very eclectic, we did charter schools in the area, and we were very just kind of hands-on and just going with the flow of student-led learning. We kind of did that for a while when she was 1st grade through 4th grade. But then when she entered 5th grade, we got into the classical movement more. So I got videos on that too, if you want to know more about that. But this is the geography we used, or the school used. And this is just basically the Middle East. Yeah, it's the Middle East, North Africa, and Europe. So all it is just facts about the country and the map. So she had to memorize the locations of all of these countries: Libya, Spain, Sudan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, like everything in this book. She had to memorize where they are on the map, their cities, or their capitals, I should say. And then, just like she took a lot of these tests, I think weekly or every other week or something like that, in her geography. The geography went along with the history course, and it was one teacher for that. The history, they use these books. These are awesome books, okay? I have no beef with these books. I like them. I think they're high quality selections. I think if you're going to teach history from a like a world, like just, it's not even, it doesn't, there's no worldview. So if you just want to teach history, I haven't seen anything in these books that make me kind of wince, you know, at what it's saying. Like there's no, there's nothing there to make me feel like they're trying to make me believe something, you know, that I need to look at something a little bit differently or read between the lines or see history in a certain context. It's just history. So that's what I like about the books they've chosen. This one is called The Ancient Near Eastern World. Okay. And they're very readable friendly. Like you want to read the whole book once you start reading, and you can zip through them. They're not that thick. There's lots of pictures. It's very fun to read, and it's on the level. I think the readability of it is, I think for 7th graders, pretty good. You could probably have a 4th or 5th grader zip through these books. I mean, they're just so user friendly. The Ancient Egyptian World, the Ancient Roman World, and the Ancient Greek World. They went through all 4 of these books throughout the school year, along with the mapping of the world. So these books came with worksheets and workbooks that were created by the school specifically to help them go through this content. So it was, she learned a lot. She learned a lot with this. So I would say this was an excellent history, world civilizations class when you're learning about the ancient civilizations. The only thing it was missing was, I think, parts of Africa that aren't just North Africa, I guess. I think they mainly focused on North Africa for this course. We're not going to be there next year, so I don't know what they're teaching, but I think there may be some more like sub-Saharan African studies next year that we're going to actually miss. So I'm not saying that the school didn't take care of that, because I think they did. I just missed it for 7th grade. Okay, so then for physics, or for science, it was this book. This is Physics for the Logic Stage. This was a very, 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 very classical approach to learning physics. What they did, the way this works is it's paired with this book. Okay, so when you get this, you also get this. And this book tells you what pages to go through in here so that you're following along. And all this is the Encyclopedia of Science by this company, DK. And you find this at the library sometimes. We actually had to get our own copy so that we can hang on to it all year and make reference to it every single week in our studies. So it was very hands-on. There were a lot of experiments she had to do and turn them in. Her Zoom classes, or Google Meet classes, is what we use, Google Meet. They were great because even though they weren't able to meet in person the first semester, they were doing these experiments on Google Meet. They would take their cameras outside and show their egg drop from the 2nd floor or whatever, you know, in your house or on your patio or whatever. And it was fun to watch each of the kids do their thing. So as a parent of a student there, I got to watch some of the videos because they record the classes, and it was awesome. So we got to see that happening, and they got to participate, and that was superb. It wasn't just workbook. It was, we're going to do this together and show each other what we're doing. So it was a lot of interaction. And of course, when they got to campus, it was even more fun in person. But this is the book. And like I said, it just kind of goes through. There's lots of, there's, you know, space for them to journal what they're learning about and answer questions, draw pictures, record their experimental results. They learned about light and reflections and refractions. They learned about force, magnetism, thermodynamics. The teacher was awesome. Okay, I'm so glad that she taught them physics because I couldn't have done it. And a lot of the teachers at this particular school we chose are experts in their field. Like they know what they're doing because that was their major. That was the thing that they focused on. So they come with passion about their subject. So this also came along with her. They did bridges and tunnels. And then they also, there was one other, robotics. There's a robotics book in here too. So they had to create their own robots. and do some test simulations and stuff like that. So that was fun. Okay, so that was physics. All right, so we covered two classes. All right, so what were they? History and geography. So we called it World Lit and Geography, and physics, which is their science. Then she also had language arts. Okay, so I'm going to show you that. Her language arts consisted of this book. This is the teacher book, and there's also the student book. And this is analytical grammar. It's a very straightforward, I guess, very classical approach to English. Okay, so she learned a lot of the things that she'd already been learning in the classical conversations program that we used to use. Well, a lot of that's piggybacked on here in this book, but it's a lot more complex because now you're talking about infinitive phrases and gerund phrases and participial phrases, and then everything is about, like, it's routine. You're going to parse the sentence, and you're going to diagram, you're going to, what do you call it? Diagram. You're going to diagram your sentences after you parse them. And yeah, and you get points taken off for every part of the sentence that you don't correctly attribute to the right part of speech. So I found it pretty advanced. I tried to do it with her just to see how many of these I could do, right? So this is the diagramming. They get pretty wild. These are the answers, and they're diagramming sentences like, and I like the sentences in the books, by the way, for this particular one, because you get information about African Americans, about different ethnic groups, about the Jewish nation, Jewish peoples. For example, some of the sentences will actually teach you concepts about history, and then you're going to parse and diagram that sentence. For example, this sentence says, the second Jewish settlement in the American colonies was the village of Newport in Rhode Island in 1658. And then it teaches you more as you go through the page about that topic as you're diagramming and parsing. So I think that's really cool. There were some things here about Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement, about just different things. So anyway, this was a good choice, I think. All right, I'm gonna show you also their writing curriculum for that class, same class, language arts, literature, and writing. This book is called Put That in Writing. It's the level 1, and then what they would do, I think for 8th grade, had she stayed, going back to this book, they used the second half of the book. First half of the book was 7th grade, second half was 8th grade. So here, and Put That in Writing, I don't know if she finished the whole book either. I'm beginning to think they might be using this for 2 years, but I'm not sure. But this was level 1. And she already had so much experience with the classical conversations writing piece, the essentials program, that this didn't turn out too bad. She already knew a lot of this. So it goes over how to outline and how to write, different types of writing. I think there are, and this is very Christian, so it's got that slant, okay? And then it has narrative writing, paragraph lessons, different types of writing assignments, right? Planning your paragraphs on different topics and things, literary devices, research. So all that's here. That's what she worked on at the school this year. That was pretty intense. She also had a Latin class, which is extremely intense. And the same teacher that she had for science or physics is the same one that taught this class. So this was her Latin. So we never got around to using all of it because we didn't stay longer than one semester with this, but she covered a good bit of Latin. So this was the collegiate level, level 1, Latin for the New Millennium workbook, I think, exercise book. So there's an exercise book. There was a reader. We never got around to actually using that in class, I don't think. But then there's the Latin for the New Millennium student workbook. So she finished up to half the book. I can see her handwriting up until page like 58 or 60 or something. There's a lot of images and things that are, very classical friendly. Like if you're into classical movement, classical education. You're going to learn a lot about Greece and Rome, and you're going to see a lot of the Greek art and statues and things just to teach you Greek history. Here's a picture of Julius Caesar's, the bust of Julius Caesar. So yeah, a lot of the stuff they're learning is all integrated, right? So with history and art and everything was integrated. So then there's the textbook, okay? So they're beautiful books. I mean, they feel rich and just beautiful. Like the pictures they're all color. It's nice, you know, but it was hard. I won't lie. Latin was hard. It was, yeah. It doesn't matter how beautiful the pictures are. Once you start conjugating and declining and getting into this, it's pretty difficult. I won't say it's any easier or harder than Henley Latin that Classical Conversations uses, but it's difficult. I would say this is probably more user-friendly than Henley Latin. If you are a CC person looking at this, is probably, Henley is dry compared to, I think, some of the other programs. But, you know, we only used Henley for Latin 1, and then for, we used it again when we skipped up to challenge 3 and 4. So we have a different take on it because we did skip a few years and didn't get all of the practice in that some of you might have. Anyway, for Christian studies, she did half her semester. So, okay, how they do it was they combine Christian studies with logic. So for logic, they use the art of argument. There's just learning about fallacies and the appeals to emotion and pity, and they learned about ad hominems and ad hominem circumstantials, different types of fallacies, the red herring, the fallacies of presupposition, things like that. Okay, so that's what this argument book is. She completed this entire workbook at the school with the help of the school. Thank God, because I would not have chosen this. I would not have chosen this topic or this subject. Okay, but because this was part of what was offered at the school, we by default, you know, took these classes. So anyway, needless to say, like this year, pandemic homeschooling wasn't exactly like my pick and my choice of all things homeschool for my daughter. This was like a default year because I felt like she needed something very structured, and we just wanted to plug in right away to something. We didn't want to do repeat CC again, and we just did this because it just seemed like a great option for the time being. And, you know, not to be selfish or anything, but I really enjoy teaching. So I wanted to have that opportunity to teach. And while I was there, it helped her with her tuition, completely helped with the amount it cost to go to the school. So now for language arts, I didn't add like the books that they read. So their literature selections, there's a lot more because like I said, they're in her room. I'll show you real quick. They read Banner in the Sky, and they actually read Julius Caesar. Yeah, they read this book. So she mainly listened to it in audio while following along. They ended up watching a clip, like a movie, the Julius Caesar movie in class, because like I said, we came back to campus in March. So they were able to do a lot of things in class. They read this one called Heroes, Gods, and Monsters. Okay, so there's a lot of Greek mythology, a lot. I, in the 3rd grade class, ended up teaching a lot of Greek mythology that's very much infused into the curriculum. Like I said, not my pick, but that's what the school used. And that's kind of how we came to the conclusion that maybe we don't really want to keep doing classical. So we decided to not do classical next year. And we don't really know what we're doing next year. We have an idea, a huge idea. And if we choose to share it, we will later, but we're not doing classical probably ever again. But anyway, this one was Word to Caesar. So she read this book and she was just so burned out with all things Caesar, and she already knew about all the mythology. She's just been watching a lot of, gosh, what's the name of that series that everybody's into? She's read all the books, but it's a mythology series that she's into. So before she got to the school, she's like, oh, I already know all about this. But they spent a whole year studying this, and it's not bad. It's just, you know, if that's what your goals are, and you want your kid to be like, well versed in it, then that the school we went to actually helped with that. So it's called the Children's Homer. And then we had a couple of other ones. I think one was called Mara, Daughter of the Nile. And the reason I have these books and not hers is because she wants to keep Mara, Daughter of the Nile. And there was another book that she wanted to keep that they read in class also, but she doesn't want to keep these. So I'm selling these. Okay, so that's why they're separated. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to share about our curriculum choices for last year. That was my pandemic homeschooling. Like I said, I was like over here on the computer teaching, and she was out there on her computer learning. And my oldest daughter was upstairs in her bedroom, or, you know, at the studio that we have set upstairs for music because she's a music major. And she was on the computer for her college, you know, for APU. And my husband was also working from home, and we're all at home on our separate computers all over the house. And that's what our pandemic life looked like. And so now that we've had that break, making new choices for next year seems to make a lot of sense again. And she, my oldest, is heading off to college in in 2 months. She will actually go to campus this year. She's so excited, and I'm excited for her because she needs to go and be there as opposed to being virtual. Virtual just burned her out, as it did all of us. I like virtual teaching because I always have done that. I mean, I've been teaching virtually since before Zoom and Google Meet and all of that. We were using other things for webinars, other platforms and stuff over the years for business. So I'm accustomed to teaching online already. So it wasn't a big change for me, but seeing how, you know, it is for like the whole world to be shut down and everybody be online, that was taxing. And so I wasn't accustomed to having everybody home on their devices and having to use all the bandwidth, you know. So we had to up our internet speed is pretty high. There's just a lot that went with the pandemic, right? So anyhow, that is all of what we used last year. And if you really are interested in what we're going to do next year, you really want to know about it, I might share, let me know in the comments below if you would like for me to make a video about that. But I will ask my daughter if it's okay to share it because she might not want her news all over the interwebs. So we'll see. I'll ask her if it's okay. And if it's okay, and if you guys are interested, I'll post a video about our homeschool choice for next year once we solidify that. But we did look at, should we continue homeschooling or should we do private school? Should we do public school? Should we do public school at home? Like, we're kind of open at this point with our decision because it really has to be, education has to be delivered to, I think, to each individual child in the way that's best for them. And homeschooling is not for everyone at every season. And I don't believe in homeschooling for life. I'm not like one of those people. I'm homeschooling for as long as it works for your family and for your kids. And if it doesn't work anymore, then quit. Don't do it because it's not for you at that time. And that's okay to transition if that's not for you. We know what we can take. We know how far we can go and how much we've had. When we've had enough, we know it's enough. And sometimes it's time for the kids to get out and go, and that's okay too. So I think that's all I have to share about our pandemic homeschooling experience in our curriculum. Let me know if you have any other questions. And when I do come back, like I said, I'll either share what we're going to do next year, but I'll also share more about like some of the projects that I'm working on and things that I'm doing that are interesting for my life, like what I'm doing, what I'm up to, and how you can join me in on those channels. And thank you so much for watching. Okay, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.